Alright, for the midterm, we'll be discussing all about minimum attractive rate of return. And under this minimum attractive rate of return, we have the present worth, the future worth, annual worth, IRR, and the ERR. So, meron 5 under ng ating MARR. And then the other two would be the payback period and benefit cost ratio method. So basically we have 3 major topics that we'll be discussing in this module. Now let's have yung MARR muna, and we call this the minimum attractive rate of return. It is a policy issued by the top management in view of numerous consideration in order to maximize the economic well-being of these organization. So we have usually 4 considerations that we have to think about. So yung una would be the amount of money available for investment and the source on cost of these funds. So it could be that it's the equity funds or the borrowed funds. And then for number 2, we have the number of good projects available for investment and their purpose. The number 3 would be the amount of perceived risk associated with the investment opportunities available to the firm. And then pang-apat would be the type of organization involved. Could be government, public utility, and private industry. So lahat ng itong mga considerations natin, itong 4 na considerations ay nagkakaroon ito ng effect dun sa ating MARR in a sense na whatever is the condition stated above, doon natin ibe-base yung ating paghahanap nung magma-maximize sa ating economic well-being. Okay? And then we have to emphasize that MARR is not a rate of return. Though yung ating MARR something like meron dyang portion na rate of return, it doesn't mean na it is the rate of return. It's the hurdle rate kung other term ang ating pag-uusapan. And yung hurdle rate na yon is na solve natin using these 5 methods. So yun, nabanggit ko na yun kanina, no? And then this present, future, annual, actually this is these are the ones that we have discussed in the previous discussion for the prelim. And then yung IR and ERR would just be the rate of interest. So instead of using yung ating mga present, future, and annual, we'll be solving for the interest. Okay, using yung usually mga natin values in the present, future, and then the annual annuities, ganun. Let's start first with the present worth. Okay, and when we say present worth, it says here that yung ating basis or the point of reference would always be the present. Kaya nga siya present worth. And the thing is, wala naman tayong bagong formula dito. Kung ano yung formula natin for present worth, ganun lang din siya dito. But we have a decision rule that we have to remember. The present worth decision rules that if the present worth using the MARR stated in the given is greater than 0, the project is economically justified. So that means that if we were able to solve for a present worth that is negative, our project, or let's say yung ating business or basta mga ganon, that will not be economically justified. So even if it's just 1, basta siya is greater than 0, then it could be said that it is economically justified. So the thing here is that yung present worth natin, we'll try to subtract that from our yung present worth natin na stated sa problem, and then after subtracting, so doon natin makikita if it's 0, 1, or more than 0 or then less than 0. Okay. Now I think there are 2 types of let's have kung dalawang. Okay. So yes, meron tayong isa lang pala siya. So meron tayong isang type nung or under nitong present worth is the bond value. So the bond, kung narinig nyo na siya, is parang IOU siya. So that is yun nga yung meaning na is IOU. Okay? So you agree to lend the money, and then in a specific portion of time, so kailangan bayaran mo siya. So yung agreement na yun is usually meron kayong let's say permahan dyan ng mga papeles, no? And it's not really different with with any amount of money na hinihiram natin. It's just that ito meron kang certain agreement with the lender na okay, babayaran mo siya in this 10-year period, 5-year period, and we have to remember na may interest yan na pinapataw.
Napakadali na magpautang pero napakahirap na maningil kapag kabayaran na. Nagpo-post sa Facebook ng mga bagong bili ng gamit, pero ang totoo naman nun baon siya. Bayad din kasi pag may time, wag yung puro ka, hindi ka naman big time. At isipin mo din kalagayan ng iyong pinagutangan, kaya bayad din pag may time.
But the difference between a bond value and then yung normal natin na indebtedness is that usually kapag nagbayad ka ng bond, binabayaran mo pa rin yung parang first payment or yung parang inutang mo talaga, addition on top of the payments that you have done, let's say yearly or monthly. That's why in bond or in solving for the value of the bond, we have this face or the par value and then the redemption or disposal price. So, yung technically yun nga yung sinabi natin na redemption or disposal price, we pay that on top of all the payments that you've done, and then that is usually equal to the face or the par value. That is kung ano yung inutang mo, no? And then the bond rate, so ito yung sineset na parang nominal interest rate nung kausap natin, nung agreement natin, and then per interest period. So N is the number of periods, so same lang naman siya, and then I would be the bond yield per period, and then V sub N is the value price of the bond interest periods prior to redemption, that is the present worth measure of merit. So before you try to redeem yung parang final C natin, you can determine the value of the bond, which is yun nga yung lahat ng values of your payment disregarding this redemption of disposal time. So, ano man sabi dito? The owner of a bond is paid in two types of payment by the borrower. So, ito yun. The first consists of this series of periodic interest payments he or she will receive until the bond is retired. There will be N such payments, each amounting to RZ, and these constitute an annuity of N payments. And in addition, when the bond is retired or sold, ito na yung sinasabi ko kanina, the bondholder will receive a single payment equal in amount to C, and then the PW of the bond is the sum of PWs of these two types of payment on the bond yield rate, I%. So, in short, the formula for finding our bond value is this, C, that is our redemption or disposal price, which is usually equal to Z. So kung siya is equal to Z, you could just substitute this to Z, and then that is P given F and then I%. And so basically kung this is P given F, that's 1 plus I raised to negative N, and then plus RZ, and then P given annuity, and then I%. And so that is 1 minus 1 plus I raised to negative N over I. So, ganun yung magiging formula natin for this. So, sometimes we write this in this form kasi nga to minimize yung ating space dito, as well as para ma-familiarize din kayo sa paggamit ng ating mga notations using, let's say, compound amount factor or the uniform series present worth factor, so mga ganun. Now, a piece of new equipment has been proposed by engineers to increase the productivity of a certain manual welding operation. The investment cost is 25,000 and the equipment will have a market value of 5,000 at the end of a study period of 5 years. Increased productivity attributed to the equipment will amount to 8,000 per year after extra operating costs have been subtracted from the revenue generated by the additional production. If the firm's MARR is 20% per year, is this proposal a sound one? Use the PW method. Okay. First things first, let's have all the given or necessary given labeled. Now, this investment cost is 25,000. So we could say that ito yung ating initial value, 25,000. Okay, and so we can say na let's have P sub I, that's 25,000. So initially meron tayong present worth na 25,000 kasi that's the investment cost, and then yung market value na, that is the end nung ating study period na 5 years. So we have N is equal to 5, and then yung ating salvage value would be, or market value would be 5,000. So usually SV na yung ginagamit natin kasi yung market value usually naman ay salvage value na rin yan. Now, increased productivity attributable to the equipment will amount to 8,000 per year after extra operating costs have been subtracted from the revenue generated by the additional production. So in short, kapag this is the 8,000 na yung makukuha mo kapag yung extra cost is subtracted from the revenue. So therefore, this 8,000 is already the profit, diba? So pwede natin sabihin na profit siya, that is 8,000 and then per year. Okay? So Ayan, meron na siyang profit na 8,000 per year. So, what could be the present worth of this certain problem, no? You can always try to do cash flow diagram here. So, I'll try to do one, and then I'll show you how we can utilize this cash flow diagram. So, basically, 25,000 yung ating initial investment. So, let's have na lang siguro dito somewhere. Okay, and then 25,000 dito. Okay, meron tayo dito ng 25,000. And then, sabi natin, 5,000 ang salvage value niya. So, technically, yung 5,000 na yun, after your study period, pwede mo pa rin siyang makuha pag pinagbenta natin. So, that's 5,000. And then, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the 5. So, medyo alangan yung aking division, pero that's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 years. Okay? And then, sabi dito, 8,000 yung nakukuha mo profit for each year. So, you can have here 8,000. Okay? So, meron diyang 8,000. Okay, so 8,000 yan. Tigigisa dyan. So, meron diyang 8,000 on top of this 5,000. Okay, so what we have to do here is to simply bring all of this to the present. So now, bringing this to the present, let's use another color. So I'll try to bring all of this to the present reference point, okay? And then, what we'll have to do is to compute for this, no? So, compute natin ngayon yung present value niya. So, this would be, the present value would be equal to yung salvage value using our compound interest lang naman. So, that's 8,000 and then 1 plus our interest or the firm's MAR is 20%. So, we'll be using that 0.20 raised to negative 5. Okay? And then we add the annuities na paproduce natin. That's 8,000. Ay, mali. Sorry. This is 5,000 pala kasi 5,000 yung salvage value. And then 8,000 for each payment. I mean, for each profit na nakukuha natin per year. So that's 1 minus 1 plus 0.2 raised to negative 5 divided by 0.2. Okay? Now, this results to a value that is equal to 25,934 let's have 2850. Okay? Now, the answer is not yet done. So, this is 25,934.2850 using MAR that is 20%. So, basically, kung dadalhin natin yung ating mga kinita at the present reference, we have 25,000. And remember, your investment cost is 25,000. So, we have to report that our PW or present worth method or the present worth value is equal to 25,934.2850 minus the initial, which is 25,000. So in short, ang ginagawa natin is we're trying to subtract we try to subtract yung initial investment natin and then yung present worth na nakukuha natin from all the revenues and all the possible na funds na makukuha natin in the future. So that gives us our PW that is equal to 934.2850 pesos. Or I mean dollars. So this is your reported final answer. Okay? So hindi yung hindi yung 25,000 kasi that would mean na laging magiging positive yung inyong present worth. So remember, what you have to do in MARR analysis that you have to subtract. Laging ganun nangyayari. We always tend to subtract yung ating mga payments from the investment or I mean from the revenues na nakukuha natin with regards to all the necessary funds na we're considering, di ba? So in this case, we try to consider yung 8,000 profit from all the revenues generated using the new equipment as well as yung sa salvage value niya after the study period, which is 5 years. So usually naman, yung 5 years period is sinasabi naman yan, pati yung MAR na gagamitin natin. So we can say that on the basis of considering our proposal, we could say na on the basis of the present worth, our proposal is a sound one kasi nga the PW is greater than 0. So that only means na whenever you have a present worth that is greater than your investment cost, you could always say that the proposal or the project is a sound one using the minimum attractive rate of interest that is 20%. Syempre, when it comes to the decision wherein the PW is negative, we could say na hindi siya sound one. And the way we can deal with that is to probably like decrease or increase the MAR, of course, depending on the problem. So, yun yung gagawin ng company when it comes to a negative value of PW. Okay. And now for number 2, sabi dito, if A is continuously compounded, is the investment justifiable? And use PW method and the equation below. So, with the reference to number 1, so we'll be solving the same problem. But in this case, we're compounding continuously. And remember, sabi natin, pag we have continuously compounding, so yung R over M natin becomes infinite, diba? And for this case, syempre, yung ating sagot is may iba na yan. So, burahin ko lang to. And then, remember, pag sinabi natin na continuously compounded, yung ating present worth, we use the different formula, diba? Instead of using our compound interest parang factor, diba? So, for this case, we have P. Let's sulat ko. So, we have P equal to the present worth, the future worth, that's 5,000, diba? And then we raise this to, multiply this with e raised to negative r, and diba yun yung formula natin? Kasi we have to bring this to the present, pero we're considering a continuously compounded case. And then we have plus 8,000, and then we multiply this by this formula, no? Ito ay hindi ko sure kung naibigay ko sa inyo sa prelim. I just think na this is already just given in this case. So, let's just copy kasi given naman siya. So, we have e raised to rn. So, basically, that's 0.2 times 5, and then minus 1, and then divided by. So, yung minus 1, we have to be careful kasi yung minus 1 is actually, kapantay niya yung e, diba? Hindi siya dun sa taas. So, baka malito kayo dyan. And then, e raised to 0.2 times 5. Then, we multiply this or multiply this by e raised to 0.2 and then minus 1. Okay? And then this gives us a value of 24,679.9639. So 9639. Okay? And then of course, to find our PW, we could subtract this with or subtract 25,000 from this, so we have a minus 25,000. Okay, and this gives you the PW that is equal to, let's just subtract, this gives you negative 320.0361. Okay, and that's the exact value for this for this case na answer natin. So ay, sorry. Bura pala yun. Okay, so this is your present worth using the compounded, continuous compounded interest rate. So remember, when we have a negative answer, we can always conclude na our present worth or the MARR using a continuously compounded interest rate, the continuously compounded investment is not really justifiable kasi it's negative. So basically, yung net natin from the investment and then dun sa parang mga future na fund natin taken into account na ang point of reference is the present is not positive value. So hindi natin siya pwedeng i-consider for this case. So ganun lang kasimple ang ating present worth, MARR, diba? We're just actually looking for the present worth and then we're trying to subtract the present worth obtained from the original investment cost, and then kung magiging positive siya, then we could say that PW is okay, that's justifiable, and then if not, then hindi justifiable yung ating MARR project natin. Okay, so let's have the next one. Okay, so how about for the next one? Let's read the problem first. A retrofitted space heating system is being considered for a small office building. The system can be purchased and installed for 110,000, and it will save an estimated 300,000 kilowatt-hour of electric power each year over a 6-year period. A kilowatt-hour of electricity costs $0.1. And the company uses a MARR of 15% per year in its economic evaluations of refurbished systems. The market value of the system will be 8,000 at the end of 6 years, and additional annual operating and maintenance expenses are negligible. Use the PW method to determine whether the system should be installed. Okay, so first things first, kailangan nating alamin yung mga given natin, no? And from this problem, we could say that our PI or P sub I would be equal to $110,000. So ito yung ating parang pinaka initial present worth or yung investment cost natin. And then yung ating savings dito is 3,000 kilowatt hour, okay? And then yung kilowatt hour na yan is $0.10 per kilowatt hour. So we could say na our savings or the revenue that we can obtain from this, which is for every year, diba? We could say na that is our annuity, that is 300,000 kilowatt hour times each saving, that's 0.10, diba? Which gives you 300, or let's just compute. Feel ko 30,000 lang to. Ayun, 30,000 nga lang. Kinalagyan ko pa talaga. So, in short, parang nakaka-save ka ng 30,000, which, of course, kung nakaka-save ka, it becomes your profit in your proposal or the company. So, that means na we could say that that's the annuity natin na 30,000. And then, we have our I that is equal to 15%. Okay, and then what else? We have 8,000, that's the salvage value or the market value. So, we have 8,000 here. Now, the question is, should the system be installed? So, in short, we have to use the PW method to determine if the system is actually justifiable. So, from that, we can say that P is simply equal to, ano ba yun? Di ba may salvage value tayo? We have to bring this. So, kailangan pa ba natin magawa ng cash flow diagram? Let's do it ng mabilis. So, this is the salvage value at the end of 6 years, I think. So, tama, 6 years. Okay? And then, so, we have yung annuity natin, that's 30,000. So, 1, parang ganyan, 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and then, finally, meron din siyang isa dyan. Okay? And then, ito yung ating present or somewhere here. So, yan. And then, we have to bring this all to your present. So, ganun naman kasimple, no? And then, we find the net value here dito sa ating present. Okay, so, I don't think kailangan ko pang yung cash flow diagram dito kasi medyo simple lang naman siya. Same lang din nung kanina nangyari. So, therefore, the salvage value multiplied by the factor, which is actually the P given F. So, that's P given F, and then the I percent N. And in this case, yung ating I percent is the MARR. And then, we also have the P given, so we have yung ating A multiplied with our P given A. And then I percent N. Okay, so parang ganyan natin magiging general formula. And then, therefore, this is equal to the salvage value as 8,000. And then, 1 plus 0.15 raised to negative 6. Kasi yung ating N is equal to 6 from this, nasa ba yun, 6 years period, diba? And then, we have plus 30,000 na revenue natin. That's 1 minus 1 plus 0.15 raised to negative 6 divided by 0.15. Now, kung mapansin nyo, kaya siya 6 din kasi, di ba, ito, each year. And then, study period natin is 6-year period. So, that makes sense. And this gives us a value of $116,993.1016. So, it's not yet the answer. We have to make sure that we subtract this with 100,000. So, 110,000. Ito yung initial investment natin. So, from that, we could say na pwede nyo na siyang i-mental, no? Matatanggal lang naman yung 110,000. So, that becomes 6,993.1016. And this is your answer in your handout. So, therefore, we could say that installing the retrofitted space heating system is actually justifiable, knowing that we could have a positive value for our present worth. So, yun yung pwede nating sagot dyan. Ang tanong kasi dyan mismo is, ano bang tanong dito? We actually need to determine whether the system should be installed. So, the answer is yes. We could say that the system could be installed because it is already justifiable based on the answer for the present worth method. Okay? Now, let's have another problem, and in this case, we're considering bonds. Okay? And the Stan moneymaker has the opportunity to purchase a certain US Treasury bond that matures in 8 years and has a face value. So, buti pa yun may face value, no? Then, 10,000 yung face value na. And then this means that Stan will receive 10,000 cash when the bond's maturity date is reached. The bond stipulates a fixed nominal interest rate of 8% per year, but interest payments are made to the bondholder even every 3 months. So therefore, each payment amounts to 2% of the face value. So that only means na if you have 8% per year and then sabi natin dito na every 3 months ba siya pinipay, di ba sabi natin yung ating nominal interest rate, which is R, will be considering that is the nominal interest rate per interest period. So that means na if you have 8% per year but the interest period would be 3 months, so you have to divide that by 4, so that gives you 0.02 or meaning 2% of the true parang interest rate natin. So that's 2% of the face value. And then Stan would like to earn 10% nominal interest compounded quarterly. So that means na dito mo kunin yung ating interest, the bond yield natin. And per year of his investment, because interest rates in the economy have risen since the bond was issued. How much should Stan be willing to pay for the bond? That means na we'll be solving for V sub n, that is yung ating parang mismo amount ng bond in the present time, diba? And with this, let's try to label all the given. Now, starting with this, we have n that is equal to 8. Okay? And then the face value would be our z. So, this is z. Okay? And then, sabi ni dito, makaka-receive siya ng 10,000 after the bond maturity. So, this is actually equal to c. And usually, sabi nga natin, yung ating c is usually equal to our z, diba? And then, the bond stipulates a fixed nominal interest rate of 8% per year. Pero ito, since we need the interest rate per interest period, so this 2% would be our R. Okay? That's our R percent. And then finally, this 10% nominal interest rate would be our I, pero we have to make sure that this is converted in terms of 10% compounded quarterly. So our I would be equal to 10 or 0.10 divided by 4, diba? So parang ganyan siya. Kasi ayun yung ating true interest rate. So from this, we could say na yung ating interest rate or the bond yield would be 0.025. Okay. So let's try to find our V sub n. So from our V sub n, we know na sabi dito, V sub n is equal to C and then P given F and then I%, and di ba yun yung formula, and then plus RZ. Okay, and then we have to multiply this by our P given A and then yung I% natin and then N. So we don't have any problem with I and then N. But then again, we have to remember na yung ating mga factors is that we'll be considering yung ating mga certain formula for this, no? So V sub N, this is equal to yung ating C, ano ba yung C natin? 10,000. How about the factor? So factor natin P given F, so that's 1 plus ano ba yung ating interest rate? So that's 0.1 over 4 raised to the number of years para diba discrete payment to. So we have 4 times ano ba yung n, that is 8. Okay? So this is for our first term. Now for the second one, we have RZ. So the plus ano ba yung ating R? 2%. So that is 0.02 times our Z, that's 10,000. Okay? And then we multiply this by the factor. So that is 1 minus 1 plus 0.10 over 4. We raise this to 4 times 8, okay? And then we divide this by 0.10 over 4, okay? So basically, yung 0.10 over 4 na yun yung talagang ano natin, interest rate or the bond yield natin. So V sub N, upon solving for this, gives you a value of 8,907.5411. Okay, so this is your final answer. And I think, di ko ata nalagyan na negative. Sabi ko na eh. So, may negative yan dyan. Okay? So, yun yung ating factor. Kasi pag wala negative, future to eh. So, present yung ating pinakonsider. Okay, so, that's it for your number 4. So, hopefully ay nag-gets nyo yung bond. Di naman siya sobrang hirap. Basta alam nyo lang yung pagde-designate ng ating mga given. As well as yung ating mga bond yield and then interest rate. Okay, so let's move on to I think since last number na to, I think you should be solving for this number 5 and try to do kung nagets nyo talaga, no? So, dito lang naman sa number 5, yung face value would be this. So, 5,000, that's your Z. And then, interest rate of 8% per year. So, wala na tayong problema doon. Yung interest rate mo, that is yung R percent. So, 8% na agad siya, di ba? And then, yung ating bond will be redeemed at the par value at the end of its 20-year life. So your end would be 20, and then the first interest payment is due 1 year from now. So in short, at the end of each year, ang payment mo. So technically, 20 lang yung end mo. And then, ano yung babayaran mo? V sub n for this bond in order to receive a yield of 10% per year on the investment. So that means na ito yung iyong I, that's 10%. So wala tayong problema, just find V sub n given na yung ating Z. And then ano ba yung C natin? So yung C kasi walang given. So usually we use the same value as the face value for this. Ay ano pala, since kahit wala palang sinabing C pero may statement dito na portion na sinasabi, this bond will be redeemed at par value. So that means na that is actually your Z. And if this bond is purchased now for 4,600, so that is your V sub n, what annual yield would the buyer receive? Now, siguro I'll try to solve this pala since wala pa tayong example for V sub n. So let's have V sub n is equal to 4,600, and this should equal to your payment kasi sabi dito so 5,000, ang hinahanap natin is annual yield, so that means 8.9%. Yung I natin mismo yung nawawala. So from this we have the value of 5,000, so that's 5,000, and then 1 plus I raised to ano ba yung ilang 20, so 20 yun, negative 20, and then we add yung 5,000 times yung ating R, that is nasan ba yun, interest of 8%, so that is 0.08. Okay, and then we have 1 minus 1 plus 0. Sorry, ito pala yung missing natin. So 1 plus I raised to negative 20 divided by I. Okay, and then solving for I, we should be able to obtain
a few moments later.
So solving for I, we should be able to obtain 0.0887. Okay, and then this is actually translated to 8.8, just to be parang exact, no, 8.8682%. Okay, so that's actually 8.9% kung i-round off natin. But then again, I want you to write up to 4 decimal places. So that's it for letter B, no? So I hope naman na you can do letter A. Napaka-simple lang naman ng letter A. It's just the same for from number 4. Okay, so that's it for the present worth method, no? And I think we should be heading to meron pa pala tayong isang example dito, that is yung ating, actually mali yung numbering ko dito. Kasi supposedly yung present worth should have a bond value as well as yung capitalized cost. Dapat ganun siya So this technically should be 2 for the future worth, and then yung ating annual worth would be number 3. Kaya pala siya dumami. Kaya 6 pa lang kinalabasan. Pero anyway, correct nyo na lang yan yung ganong error. So yung capitalized cost is still, kaya pala sabi ko bakit isa lang to. Anyway, so yun nga, yung capitalized cost is actually under our present worth method, no? And then kung matatandaan nyo yung ating capitalized cost, that's also the same thing as this capitalized worth method. So let's just have an overview of this. No? Sabi dito, one special variation of the PW method involves determining the PW of all revenues or expenses over an infinite length of time. This is known as the capitalized worth method. If only expenses are considered, results obtained by this method are sometimes referred to as the capitalized cost. So nga yung sinasabi ko kanina before. And then we usually have this PW approaching to yung N natin approaching to infinity. And lastly, we have this A over I. Usually yun yung naging formula natin for perpetuity, diba? But then again, let's try to compute for this example. No? A new bridge across the Cumberland River is being planned near a busy highway intersection in the commercial part of a Midwestern town. The construction, or the first cost, we can just label this the P sub I natin. No? Actually, yung mga first cost na yan, wala naman talagang certain, depende sa inyo kung ano yung inyong letter na gagamitin. But I usually use P sub I. Kasi present worth naman talaga siya literally. But then again, it's a different thing na na-compare natin for our present worth. So let's have sub-I na lang para at least we know na yun is obtained from the given itself, and that's the point of comparison natin na maka-obtain dun sa present worth natin using calculations. So that's 1,900,000, and annual upkeep is estimated to be 25,000. So in short, tong upkeep na to, ito yung ating parang additional na binabayaran, parang ganon, no? So, in addition to annual upkeep, major maintenance work is anticipated every 8 years. So, let's have ganito, no? Yung A natin is equal to 25,000 kasi ito yung annual natin na binabayaran. And then yung ating major maintenance work is anticipated every 8 years at a cost of 350,000. So in short, itong M natin, pwede natin sabihin na maintenance cost to, that's 350,000. Pero we're doing that for every 8 years, diba? Period. So yan. And then the town's government MARR is 8% per year. So we have MARR that is equal to 8%. And for this problem, what analysis period N is practically speaking defined as forever. Now, ito wala talaga tayong specific na we couldn't actually give yung specific answer kapag sinabi natin na yung N mo would be defined as forever. Kasi 'di ba, yung forever, alam naman natin na hindi natin siya kayang i-quantify literally, no? And that's why in this problem, sinabi dito na 100 years. Oh, by the way, this was obtained from ano ba? Kay Sullivan ata, di ko sure. So, sa kanya kasi that's 100 years. But then again, kung meron kayong problem na ma-encounter like this, and then it asks you to find or quantify yung forever, you can always use 100 years. We just stick with this kind of problem, no? Kapag pinapatanong is yung, or practically speaking, yung N. Kasi minsan, kailangan mo ng N para ma-compute yan, especially when we're dealing with capitalized cost. So, we have to make sure now we're using the same idea na pag sinabi natin forever, that's almost like 100 years. Okay? So, for letter B, if the bridge has an expected life of 50 years, what is the capitalized worth of the bridge over a 100-year study period? Okay. So, ano yung mangyayari dyan? For 50 years life lang yung ano natin, yung ating bridge. And remember, we'll try to assume na magre-replace tayo ng bridge at the end of the year 50, di ba? Kasi alam naman natin na 100 year study period natin. So basically kung nagkaroon na ng hindi na gumagana siya after 50 or not really functioning for 50 years, after 50 years, di ba? So we can just we just have to remember na we're considering 100 year study period dito. So, siguro ang best option that we can do here is to do a cash flow diagram para medyo gets natin kung ano yung mangyayari later. And this is the time frame of 0 to 100 years. Okay, and then I'll just siguro write or draw yung mga arrows natin for specific periods na importante. So, the first one is the construction cost. That's yung zero natin. That's yung 1,900,000. And then, annually, we have 25,000 upkeep. So, meron tayong ganyan. So, annual natin yan, no? Ay, sorry, by the way pala, ito pala is actually sa baba kasi this is upkeep, so parang payments din natin yan. So sa baba rin siya. Ma-add siya dun sa ating initial capitalized or investment cost, diba? Anyway, so yan yun. Hanggang 100 yan. Okay, so hindi ko na siya papakita talaga ng So meron yan na upkeep. Upkeep. Tapos yung ating saan ba yung isa pa natin? Yung maintenance is expected every 8 years. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, basically, ito yung una natin na ubahin natin ng kulay para mas define. So, this is your first maintenance work. And then, ilan ba yun? So, for 100 kasi, 100 years, meron tayong 12 lang na upkeep. So, let's just use that. Parang 12. 2, And then, basta yan yung ating mga maintenance work. And then, we need to bring this all back to the present time. So, dali natin lang to sa present, diba? And remember, this is your capitalized cost. So, usually, we use the same formula. And then, we also have to remember na since we're considering a 100-year period, and then after 50 years, meron tayong expected life lang na 50 years for the bridge. So, sa kalahati nung time frame nito, we have to make sure na we add another investment cost. So, let's have it here na lang siguro. So, and then ibabalik din natin siya at the present time. Okay. So, yun yun. Nakalimutan ko siya kanina eh. Okay, so yan yung parang pinaka-cash flow diagram niya. So, again, ito yung parang investment cost natin. So, let's have PI. Okay? Pero meron din ditong PI. Diba? So, kaya dalawa yung PI natin is that yung sa simula natin, na-construct tayo ng bridge, that's 1,900,000. But then again, after 50 years, masisira na siya. So, we have to construct another bridge again. Diba? So, yun. And then, pero yung ating maintenance would be over 100 study year period. That's why ito, perpetual ano lang siya. Upkeep, and then every 8 years lang naman yung ating maintenance. So, wala naman doon problema. We'll just do it until we exhaust yung ating 100-year period. And therefore, we can write the formula for this. So, we have our, kasi kailangan natin is yung ating total capitalized cost. So, our CW would be equal to yung PI natin, that's 1,900,000. Okay. And then we add, so siguro unahin ko na yung A over I natin, which is perpetuity, that's 25,000. That's 25,000 divided by I, so that's 0.08. Okay. And then add ko naman sunod, ito yung upkeep, maintenance cost natin. So that is 350,000. And remember, yung formula natin, that's over 1 plus I, that's 0.08 raised to yung period niya. So that is every, ano ba to? Every 8 years, so that's 8, and then minus 1. Okay, and then we add, so I think this is the last one. That's PI, 1,900,000. But then again, we have to consider bringing this to the present. That's 1 plus 0.08 raised to negative 50. Okay, and then this gives us a final answer that is equal to 2 million. So 2,664,324.912. Okay, so dollars. Now, why is it na negative yung ating sagot dito? So, kasi we don't have any parang reference value dito for our PI, diba? Kasi hindi naman natin masasabi kung ano ba yung ating P sub I dito kasi wala naman talagang binigay sa atin. So, therefore, we have to consider na that is equal to 0. Tama, CW lang kasi yung tanong. So, hindi na necessary natin na gawin na PW is equal to PI minus CW. Kasi parang nalagay ko ata dito is ganun. Kaya 0 minus this value. That's why it's negative. Then again, kung CW lang naman, okay lang siya na positive. Yung ibig sabihin lang nun, yung value na yon is that the amount that you'll be needing to construct this bridge, assuming that we have a 100-year period with 50-year life na expected life of your bridge. No, but if it's the present worth, we could just have it something like, what is the present worth of the bridge? Then you have to subtract 0 from that kasi wala tayong basically initial parang pera to fund this bridge. So yung negative value would mean na you will have to use that certain money, which is actually if negative, then expenses yun natin. So for this, it could be just the positive value. But then again, that's the idea for this. Okay. So hopefully na-guess nyo yung capitalized worth in this case. Actually, review lang naman to, no? But then again, in using that in the comparison between the present worth, wala talaga tayong hindi talaga natin to na compare, no? Kasi wala naman tayong initial na parang pera to compare this. For example, yung ating pera would be 2,700,000. That would have been a lot easier by subtracting CW, and then the present worth would be positive. But for this case kasi, since we don't have any money initially, so we could say na at the construction of this bridge, you will be needing this a certain amount. And then that's all for this. And ba't ba siya naging MARR na 8%? Well, probably the idea here is that may certain amount of money yung company natin, and then we can try to compare that budget to the initial investment, or the initial investment for the construction of this bridge. But since hindi naman binigay, so wala tayong problema dun. Just find the capitalized over or capitalized cost, and that's all for this problem. Okay, and I think we can now move forward na sa second type, which is the future worth method. So remember, this is just number 2. Okay.